Yay! Welcome everyone! Woohoo! Ooh, I'm excited. Okay. So before we get started, please post in the chat box on the right-hand side of the screen where you are coming from. I didn't know it was the musical today. I'm singing. Yay! All right. Let me know where you're coming from. I can give you a shout out. We have a ton of you on. We've got Nanny, we've got Carol, we've got Magdalena, we have Lori, Fabian, Maru, Carrie, Alyssa, Tamara, Neely, Michelle, Amanda, Desiree, Nicole, Lori, Susan, Christy, Bianca. I love your name. Crystal and Kim. We've got more people popping in. Oh my God. Yay, we have Nani from Montreal, Canada, Michelle from Minnesota, Amanda, hello, Carrie from Iowa, Amanda from Georgia, Crystal from Saskatchewan, Bianca from San Antonio, Carol from Fairfax. Awesome. I love you all. This is so fun. Okay, so today's class, we have a ton of content. Oh my goodness, we have a ton. Let me bring up my outline. I really want to, because we have a truth. So, hang on, we have a few more people popping in. We got Neely from South Carolina, Kim from Ada, Minnesota. Oh, so exciting. All right, boundaries. This is a really hot topic for a lot of people. And so let me officially kick off. Welcome everybody to this Lunch and Learn. I'm FloraSage, and today's topic is boundaries, which is really, really huge. So today we're going to share about, and you're going to learn about what boundaries are, the types of boundaries, how they're established, boundaries are, and how to create and set up healthy boundaries. Now, when I was creating this outline, because I've never really taught, I've taught boundaries and ethics before in my programs, but never as just an individual standalone class outside of ethics. And so I'm getting my outline together and I'm like, oh my God, I've got so much to share. And like I said, I've never done a full-blown, full-length class before. So having this mini class first, I'm going, oh God, how can I fit it all in? So anyway, this is really exciting. So before we get started with the content of this class, let's open up sacred space. And this is really easy to do. We're simply going to pull in 3 deep belly breaths and then center ourselves. So let's close our eyes and take a deep, deep belly breath in, allowing your belly to rise and chest to rise. And exhale, allowing your chest to fall and your belly to sink in. Take another deep, deep belly breath. And exhale. Take one last breath in as we call in all of our guides and guardians to be with us in this sacred space today. And open your eyes. That's my favorite. Yay! All right. Okay, so boundaries. By definition, boundaries are a line that marks the limits of an area or a dividing line, a limit of a subject or sphere of activity, or a limit or border. So boundaries are created with people, boundaries are created with things and objects and what are created to help ensure personal safety, comfort, and self-respect. If boundaries are violated, typically by ourselves or somebody else, we feel weird, we feel discomfort, we feel violated. There's a lot of different things that we feel. And so one of the examples of boundaries that I like to give is with a vehicle. So when cars were first created, and becoming really popular on the road, the boundaries weren't really, yes, there was kind of the rules of the road for the horse and buggy and the carriages and stuff like that. But because the automobile was so efficient and so easy to basically get a hand on, they were really becoming just kind of a problem because there were so many people on the road. And with so many people on the road, that caused a ton of accidents. And so what happened was, especially in intersections and like that, and you know, because there was so many being crossed, the state and federal government were like, holy shit, this is not good. So they started to implement stop signs. They started to implement a little pamphlet basically stating these are the rules of the road. And so that's how we have passing zones. That's why we have stop signs. That's why we have seatbelts. All of these were a result of boundaries that were crossed that weren't clearly defined from the get-go. So let's talk a little bit about the types of boundaries. There's the internal. These are our own opinions, our own behaviors, our own beliefs, and our own kind of spiritual beliefs and spiritual practices as well. The external boundaries are basically our personal comfort zone or the distance from somebody else that we like to have. You know, some people are huggers, some people aren't. I actually just watched this clip on Facebook about Jerry Seinfeld, and he was, I think it was a transcendental meditation event or something, and Kesha came up to him and was like, oh my God, Jerry Seinfeld, you're so amazing. Can I have a hug? And he's like, nope, no thanks. And he put his hand out. He's like, nope. She's like, oh, come on, please, please. And he goes, no, I'd rather not. No. And he backed away and he put his hand up and she walked away. She was totally dissed. And then all of a sudden the guy goes, the interviewer goes, you know who that was? And he goes, no, I don't know who that was. And he goes, oh, that was Kesha. And he goes, oh, well, whatever, and he hugged you. That was something that, how many times has somebody come up and said, oh, I'm a hugger. And then they just like hug you. And you might not be a hugger, but you're like, hey, yeah, okay, whatever, hurry up and finish, And that's a violation of your personal space. But a lot of people don't say, no, thanks, I'd rather not. I'm more of a handshaker or a, hey, how's it going? You know what I mean? Howie Mandel has OCD, and for years he wouldn't touch anybody. He would do like the elbow bump or whatever, but he did not want to touch people because of whatnot. Treatment for it, and so now he's fine. But that's the thing, is that we establish boundaries to help us feel safe, to help us feel like we have some semblance of order in our own space. And yes, there's these external boundaries like the stop signs and the windows and the door locks and all these other things that we put in place, again, to set up parameters, kind of like a security system, if you will, for people and for places and all this other stuff. Just like when we're at the zoo, there's parameters, there's boundaries where we can go and where we can't go. Can go barriers or boundaries are the people that are trained, but even still, there are some people that can't go past certain boundaries and barriers for safety reasons. And so there's a lot of boundaries that are spoken, and there's a lot of boundaries that are unspoken. There's also physical boundaries. There's also sexual boundaries and emotional boundaries and mental boundaries. And some boundaries are black and white, like do this and not this, and stay, in this line, do this, and very, very, very black and white. And others very gray. They're just depends on the circumstances, depends on who it is, and kind of the energy around that particular thing. So one of the things that I want to really kind of drill into everybody here is that what's a healthy boundary for you might not be a healthy boundary for somebody else. This is very important. And what's a healthy boundary for somebody else might not be a boundary. So now let's look at how we actually establish and how we actually set up these boundaries. So boundaries aren't typically created until something is crossed, until that threshold is crossed. And then all of a sudden we realize, oh, wait a minute, I don't like this, or wait, why are you doing this? Or, oh, this is not a good idea, or, oh my God, somebody got hurt, and so they're not typically created until they get, car example. Most of us learned our boundaries through observation through our caregivers, whether it's a parent or a grandparent or a foster parent or aunt or uncle or whomever took care of us as a child, those caregivers, with not so many words, taught us and illustrated to us what boundaries are and also what they're not. And some relationships have no boundaries and some have very, very rigid boundaries. And so when we think about boundaries, and really what I'm going to really say is more of that relationship boundary, not necessarily with a sexual or intimate partner, but a relationship of all kinds, whether it's a working partnership, relationship with your kids, with your spouse, with your siblings, with everybody in your life. And so most people or most boundaries in relationships aren't usually stated until, again, they get crossed. And so as we get older, we typically start to recognize what we like, what we don't like in a relationship. And we're more to say, usually in the beginning part of the relationship, what you like, what you don't like, what your boundaries are, what you tolerate, what you don't tolerate. And so just through that dynamic dialogue and through that communication with the other person, you're able to express what your boundaries are. But usually early on, like when we're teenagers and when we're kids, and even when we're young adults, we're not really versed or not really savvy about communicating those boundaries. And this is one of the things, if you're a parent of children, obviously a parent of any, well, even pets, because pets have boundaries. My dog has one of those shot collars and was really mean and cruel, but it really is for his safety because we have a lot of people that drive really fast in our neighborhood, and it's a half-acre kind of pet zone, pet safety, something, and there's this kind of transmitter, and when we put the collar on him, it will beep probably 10 to 15 before it will actually shock him. And he knows when he hears the beep, I'm just going to stay here. And he's got a half-acre to run, so it's quite a big, area for him. And he's a roamer, though. And so this is, as a parent of him, he's my little fur baby. I want to make sure that he stays safe. And so I've set parameters up and boundaries up with him through this kind of system. And I really didn't want to, but he was wandering one day and almost got hit by a car. And I'm like, okay, I need to take measures into my own hands. And so there are some times when he sees the neighbor dog and he just says, excuse the vernacular, fuck it, I'm busting out of here. And he'll like literally go, he will go all the way across the yard and he will sprint and run through the shock so that he can see his best friend. So yeah, I don't have it on him all the time, but this is one of the things that's really, really important to recognize is that in relationships, most of the time boundaries crossed. When we first got Tank, which is my dog, he's sitting there. He's so sweet. I don't know if you guys can see him. Yay! He's so cute. I just love him. So we didn't set up boundaries. We didn't set up parameters with him, and he ended up roaming and almost got hit by a car. And then I realized I need to establish boundaries for him for his safety. And so, some of the signs of unhealthy boundaries are, especially in relationships, are sharing too much, keeping yourself so closed off to whomever you're in a relationship with that they really have to try to dig to get to know you. Like, come on, tell me anything, give me something here, throw me a bone, people. Another thing is feeling responsible for somebody else's happiness, not knowing when to say no, and that is for fear of rejection or abandonment. You let others make decisions for you. You don't take personal responsibility. You base your how other people treat you. That's really, really big. Another sign of unhealthy boundaries is that you're really enmeshed with other people, meaning that you morph into others' lives in hope of being liked by them and really kind of being a chameleon and really saying, oh my God, if you're not in my life, I'm going to kill myself. Or if you're not in my life, my life is over. All these big dramatic things. Those are signs. All of those things are signs of very unhealthy set of boundaries in your life because you really aren't having any or don't really worth and everything else to be dependent on the other people in your life. So Why are boundaries crossed? Well, the number one reason why boundaries are crossed is because the parameters or the boundaries aren't known. I mean, it's people don't know that, oh, I didn't know that I couldn't go in there, or oh, I didn't know that you didn't like this, or I didn't know that you didn't like that. And that's the number one reason why boundaries are crossed, is because people just don't, or what the parameters. The second reason is because people like to test limits. They like to say, okay, the speed limit is 70. I wonder if I can go 80. And then they test those boundaries. They test those parameters. Or, this says do not enter. I wonder if I can get away with it. And so that's the second reason why people have, I apologize, why boundaries are crossed, is because people want to test to see the limits of those boundaries. What exactly do I want for me to get, for me to, or for somebody else to say something to me? The next reason that we're going to look at is basically the person who's crossing the boundary really just has disregard for the other person and putting their needs before somebody else's in a selfish way. So what happens now when a boundary is crossed? Now, there are several different ways that people can react to this, and that you can react to this. You can react in a reactionary way, which is like that knee-jerk way where you fly off the handle, or a Tory way. I don't know, is an actual word, but it works. So reactionary, again, is when most people get on the offensive or the defensive because they feel that they've been wronged in some way. Now, most people, they start fights or confrontations because they feel, for one, that they're not being heard. For two, they feel like they're being violated. For three, they feel like, oh my God, this person just wronged me. And hello, so this is all reactionary. This is all reactionary. And all of that, that's not a good thing, okay? So on the flip side, there's that responsitory. And this is when people actually respond appropriately to a boundary being crossed. And when they can actually listen to something, their needs, and allow themselves to recognize, okay, so maybe this person didn't know my needs. Maybe they didn't know my boundaries. And if they did, then they deliberately crossed them. Okay, so let me respond appropriately. If they had no clue, okay, so, oh, hey, the other day when we were talking and you shared something with friends, you guys started laughing, I really was not comfortable with that. I would appreciate if you would keep what happens between us, especially those really intimate things. And so I know some of that is hard to share with people, but allowing yourself to really be able to articulate your boundaries in a relationship is very, 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 very important. And when you can actually speak your truth and you can share your truth and share your boundaries that hopefully will hear and honor, then that, oh my gosh, that makes for such a healthy, such a beautiful relationship, regardless of what type of relationship it is. Now, again, if you're with somebody who does not respect your boundaries, who is like, yeah, whatever, I would challenge you to rethink that relationship and ask yourself, why are you in that relationship with someone who doesn't respect your boundaries? So now, again, most folks set up boundaries only after they've been crossed, but you can choose to be proactive boundaries before they're crossed. And so this is part of the reaction versus responsitory. You can actually take it that step further. Okay, and instead of waiting until it's crossed to set up a boundary, you can actually be proactive and say, wait a minute, I'm going to evaluate and look at the boundary in my life and let people know the boundaries before they even think about crossing them. And that's when you can be really proactive in your life and say, okay, so I'm getting a dog, and I know that dogs sometimes tend to wander. So before I even get the dog, I'm going to set up a boundary or a fence to keep that dog safe. So instead of waiting a month to get the invisible fence, I could have gotten it before I even got the dog. I could have set up an actual physical fence. So there was a lot of different precautionary things that I could have done before, but I acted in more of a reactionary mode instead of a pro. Same thing in relations. I was recently in a very short-term relationship with someone. It was fabulous, but I realized, yeah, this is not the relationship for me. But early on, I knew I wanted to set up some boundaries and parameters with him so that we were on the same page. And I opened up the dialogue and said, oh, hey, so, you know, in the past, my partners have not really honored my boundaries and not really honored some of my needs and some of the resonate with. And so I want to share them with you before this even becomes a taboo. And he was like, okay, cool, you know. And so I shared some boundaries and stuff like that. He goes, wow, this is really good. I'm like, well, thank you. And then he shared his boundaries and I was like, thank you. And it was so refreshing to know the person's boundaries before so that we really knew that we literally were on the same page with a lot of things. And there was some things that were just kind of circumstantial that we're just like, well, I'm not really sure how I feel been in that situation. Opening up a dialogue before things become an issue is such a blessing. It is so huge. And a lot of people are more in that reactionary or responsitory mode. Most people, I've got to say, are in reactionary mode. They just react to boundaries being crossed. And usually they react in a way of, oh, I can't believe that so-and-so did this. And then they get all pissed and all bent out of shape about it and then fume and are upset and they don't talk to the person for a year or whatever. They're still upset about it and they bitch and complain on Facebook and every place else. But they don't go to the source. They don't go to the person and actually have a dialogue and a conversation with the person of, look, this is what happened, you know, whether it was a foul complaint or a physical something, whatever it is, most people don't actually address the issue. And so that's the number one thing is to how to really have healthy boundaries is take that approach to it and really give yourself permission to say, I'm going to speak my truth. I am going to speak my truth. And this is one of the ways, like I said, to be proactive and to start to create healthy boundaries. So one of the ways that you can do this is to make a list of all the things that you want and don't want in your relationships. And again, these are relationships and or intimate and, you know, pretty much every spectrum of the relationship spectrum, from just, hey, you know, saying hi to the neighbor down the street to the person that's sharing your bed with you and that you're having sexual relationships with. So make a list of, you know, what types of things do I resonate with and what types of things do I not resonate with? And start to make a list. And that's how we can start to sort out, okay, whether it's in your brain or on a piece of paper, start to sort out before this, what you like. And then at any given time, I really want you to know, and this is a huge thing, and I want you all to write this down. At any given time, you are either empowering or enabling yourself or others to fully show up in a situation. At any given time, I want every single one of you to write this down. At any given time, you are either empowering or enabling yourself or others to show up fully in a situation, okay? So you are enabling as an addict, an abuser, as whatever the you know case may be, if you choose not to speak your truth. You're also enabling yourself to be that victim. However, you're also empowering yourself to live a life full of integrity and full of joy and happiness if you say, no, I don't want a hug. Or, I don't like this, please stop. Or, I find that inappropriate, please quit, or whatever it is. Or setting up the okay? Empowering yourself or enabling yourself. And you're either empowering someone else or enabling someone else through any and all actions that you do when it comes around and comes to boundaries. Another way that you can start to set up healthy boundaries is to be willing to speak your truth and your needs to people in your life that you're in a relationship with. And like I said, these are relationships of all kinds. And another thing that I want to really have to really is that you and you alone are responsible for your happiness. No one else is responsible for your happiness. No one else is responsible for your life. Your life is your fault. I have a video about this on YouTube. Kind of get on my soapbox. But that's the thing, is that if somebody's crossing your boundaries, you need to let them know, because if you don't tell them, they won't know. People are oblivious. Most people have no clue what your boundaries are. And if you keep doing things and doing things and doing things and doing things and doing things, and then finally after 5, why are you doing this? And the other person's like, what are you talking about? I've been doing this for 5 years. You're like, oh my God, I hate it. And they're like, okay, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you say something? They're clueless. Most people are clueless because they don't know. They don't know. So you have to be willing to share your boundaries with them, because if you don't tell them, it's kind of like a store that doesn't know, oh my God, free candy. And they're just like piling. And then all of a sudden the store owner is like, oh my God, kid, you need to buy that. And the kid's like, I didn't know. He's like, I didn't know he's got his cheeks full of food and candy, you know. You've got to tell the people in your life what your boundaries are, what your healthy boundaries are, okay? Another thing is that you are clearly communicating your needs and your boundaries to others before they cross them. It's much easier to address it before than after. So much easier. Now, another thing, and this is the thing that I'm going to leave you with, okay, is that you are not responsible for how someone reacts or responds to your needs and your requests and your shares. Okay, so when no, I don't want to hug, you're not responsible for how they react to you. If they get pissed, that's on them. That's their circus. That's their monkeys. That is not your responsibility. And don't take it personally if they get pissed or upset. That is not about you. That is about them and their stuff. So really allow yourself to be okay and be willing to share your truth with other people before the boundary. If you're in a situation right now where people just keep crossing, you can still change the course. You can still say, you know what, so-and-so, I really do not like when you do this, you know. And so I have a dialogue script. I wasn't going to share this, but I'm just with you. This dialogue script is, when blank happens, I feel blank because blank, and what I really need is blank. And so use that anytime someone has crossed your boundaries. And again, hopefully you'll explain your boundaries and share your boundaries before they're crossed. But if not, if you're in that sticky situation where you're like, oh shit, it's been 5 years and this person keeps doing this and I don't like this and I need to just kind of have a little sit down with them, share your truth in that story or in this sentence. When blank, I feel because blank. And what I really need is, and then of course, fill in the blanks. So I'm actually going to write this down in the comments so that you all can, just a second. I can't type and talk. So I'm going to type this in the comments so all of you can have access to it, and you can actually just copy paste it. When blank happens, I feel is blank. And what I really need is blank. So when blank happens, I feel blank because blank. And what I really need is blank. And this is the thing, is that when you give yourself permission to vocalize and verbalize your truth and your boundaries, and you allow yourself to recognize that what's healthy for you might not be healthy for somebody else, and what's a healthy boundary for somebody else might not be a healthy boundary for you. And when you recognize that it's been crossed, you speak your truth and know that you're owning your truth and you are not responsible if shows up or how they feel. And if they're pissed at you for setting up boundaries, that is not about you. That is about them, and that is about their stuff that they need to work through. So I have a couple more things that I want to share with you. Some resources to help you move through this with more grace and ease. The first one is How to Be an Adult by David Richo. I have the book here somewhere. Here it is. How to Be an Adult by David Richo. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous book. Oh my gosh, so good. Another book that I don't have downstairs is by Don Miguel Ruiz. And another thing is coda.org. That is the Codependency Anonymous group, and that helps people establish healthy boundaries and have healthy relationships in your life. The last thing that I want to share with you is that my deep and utter appreciation and gratitude for all of you. Boundaries is a tough subject to tackle, but when you have healthy boundaries, a healthy life. Oh my gosh, you have such a healthy life. And so I want to commend you for that. And because you showed up today and you spent the last 30 minutes with a special offer for you, I want to give you access to over 150 hours of classes just like this for $1. And so if you look on your screen, I'm going to share with you right now, if my mouse will work. I'm going to share with you, and it says get access for $1, access over 150 hours of classes, claim my special offer. So click the claim my special offer button, and you're going to get, like I said, over 150 hours worth of classes just like this. They're so powerful. Some of the classes that we have are Intuition 101, Meditation 101, Space Clearing for You. That's a 2-part class. The Freedom, that's a huge work. So good. We have Balance versus Harmony. We have Own Your Power, Own Your Energy, Stop Self-Sabotaging, Judgment versus Comparison, Color Therapy, Chakras 101, Spirit Guides Meet and Greet, Archangels, How to Raise Your Personal Vibes, Journey Through Journaling, Auric Cord Removal for Personal Use, How to Get Anything You Want, the 4-step process. New Story, New You, Change Your Life by Rewriting Your Story, Time Management for Busy People. You also get access to my Fearless Lean program that's like Box with Me. And you also get access to the Year in a Day 53-week program. That is a huge program. It's so awesome. We have so many people going through it. You also get access to all of my meditation and affirmation albums. You get access to the monthly group coaching that we do, which is actually going to be on the 22nd of this month, which is next Thursday, which I'm really pumped about. You also get access to 2 live calls called Office Hours. They're so fun. Ask me any and all questions about it in the Institute, in the FloraSage Therapies Institute. Now, there is one thing. This special offer, it's $1 for 15 days of unlimited access. And so you get in there, you get all access for 15 days. You get in there, you listen to the classes. You don't have to sit down and be in front of your computer when you're listening to the classes. You can just play it and then sweep and just do whatever else around your house. Get in there and just allow yourself to classes and to say, what is the possibility? What can this class show me and teach me today? And try out some of the classes. Dig in there, and if you love what you see, you can stay in the Institute for $24.95 a month. If you don't love it, you can just cancel your membership. No strings attached. But that as my gift to you for being here today in this Lunch and Learn, I want to give you all access for $1. That is it. You have nothing to lose, because what you gained from this class alone, think about how over 150 hours of classes and content just like this. Hello? Mind blowing. So like I said, that's my gift to you for coming to this Lunch and Learn, for being here, for showing up for your life, for showing up for your future, because that's really what it's all about. You wanting the little oomph to move forward in a really empowered way. And that's what I do. That's what my whole mission is, to help you help yourself, to help you have the tools, get the tools, gain the clarity and the aha moments and the insights, so that when you're navigating through this messy thing that we call life, you can do it in a way that feels empowered, not in a way that feels disembodied, that feels hard. This sucks and I have no freaking idea what to do. This is why I create the classes that I do. I create my classes to give you information that you can take and use, not just random shit that's just going to be sitting in your head that you have no freaking use for. I give you stuff that's usable, that's practical, that you can actually put into action in your life. And that is why I want 15 days, unlimited, $1 as my gift to you for being here and taking the time out of your day. So if that's interesting for you, please click on the link, join the inner circle, join the Institute. This is for the FloraSage Institute. So exciting. I'm so pumped. Yay! So now we're going to spend the next 5 minutes answering any questions that you might have about this class and or about the Institute and what it can do for you. So we have Mary from Hudson at work in St. Paul, Minnesota. Woohoo! Okay, Christy says, hi, Flora. If we have time for questions later, I'm going through a tough with my daughter. Father is making it difficult, and I have to take him to court and gain an order to move. I have sole custody and guardianship. How can I create healthy boundaries in this area? Please help. Okay, so court situations and this type of thing, it's a very messy, very sticky situation. And so obviously, so looking at both sides of the coin, obviously you're like, okay, I want out, we're done, let's just move. But her father, on the other hand, that's a piece of him. So his daughter is a piece of him. And a lot of the times, a lot of men feel slighted because women get and they never see their kids. And so that might be a fear of his, that he might never see her and everything like that. And so look at if it's an abusive situation, that's a whole other can of worms. If he is a good father, if he treats her well, if he does fun stuff with her, whatever, assure him that you will onship with her and try to help him nurture that relationship. Because that's the thing, is that I couldn't imagine not having custody of my kids. I mean, to me, that's like, oh, that would be like my heart ripped out of my chest, you know? And so think of it in the kind of the same way. And I know that when I said that, you know, his response or his reactions is not your responsibility. However, you both have a responsibility of the daughter. You both have responsibility of being healthy co-parenting parents, that daughter, so showing a good shining example of what a healthy relationship can look like. And many times healthy relationships look like being separated and being apart. And so really use this as an opportunity to convey your needs and your desires and your wants, and also hear his desires, hear him out, and ask him, well, what do you want? What are your needs at this time? And showing that and being willing to kind of meet him in the right. So these are my boundaries. This is what I want. This is what you want. And then work it out together. And I know sometimes that's not easy, because especially after there's been a divorce or a separation, people butt heads. That is a huge, huge thing. I know. I've been there many times, you know, like 3 divorces. And yeah, so it really is, you know, look at his needs and look at your needs and look at the needs of your daughter. And depending on how old your daughter is, it doesn't say her. You can also ask your daughter too, but it's beneficial to have both parents in a child's life if they can, if they're able. There are some times when a parent isn't healthy, there's addictions, or there's abuse issues, or there's other, you know, mental things involved. Of course, we all think our exes are crazy, but that's beside the point, like legit, like clinical stuff, you know. And really allow yourself to get outside of ego, because trust me, I know ego is so mixed in and ingrained with legal stuff, but try to get outside of ego and try to say, all right, how can we both be healthy adults in this situation? Look at your needs, look at his needs, look at your boundaries, his boundaries, and then look at the needs of your daughter and also her boundaries, because she might not feel safe with one thing or another thing. And try not to influence your daughter in any way, shape, or form with how she, and again, how old she is. But if it's a baby, you know, obviously it's going to be a little bit different. But if they're actually able to talk, try not to influence the answers that they give you. But this really is something that all parties should try to have that equal footing and try to be able to voice their truth and voice what their needs are, because a family is a family. I mean, it really takes a village to raise a child, and taking out a vital component of that village, aka the father figure, can be very detrimental. And so, yes, there are sometimes that it's not very helpful, a whole lot of a certain parent or whatever. But again, look at the boundaries. When can he show up at his best? And try to create that visitation or the time together so that he is at his best and she can see his best, because a parent to a child is the best thing, regardless of how they show up and how they don't show up. They're always going to be looking up to that parent and go, that's my dad or that's my mom, you know? And so it's not up to us to put into the child's head, should or shouldn't. And again, this is all about boundaries, is, you know, share your boundaries and have your daughter share hers, and then have your ex-husband share his, and really allow yourself to think about this in the bigger picture. And so, you know, I can understand why the father's making it difficult, because like I said, it's his daughter too. And so I don't like to, you know, I like to play devil's advocate. I like to see it all sides of the story. Some of my friends hate when I do this, because I'm like, well, let's look at his side, or let's look at their side, or this, because we want to be right. A lot of times we feel like, well, no, this is my right and all this other stuff. And no, it's their right too, because it's their daughter as well. And so really allow yourself to get outside of ego and just say, okay, we came together, we made this beautiful child. How can we work together, and how can we set up healthy boundaries for everyone, not just one person, not just two people, but everyone that's in the picture? Helped you in some. Amanda said, I have to pick up my daughter. Really want to hear more? Well, there's the recording, Amanda. I hope you're listening to the recording. Crystal said, great class and great perspectives. You're very, very welcome, Crystal. Yay. All right. So if you have any questions, go ahead. We're going to stand for about 2 more minutes. We're going to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you so for coming to today's Lunch and Learn. Oh my goodness. I know I absolutely love doing these calls, love doing these classes. And, you know, it's just an amazing thing to be able to share my perspective with all of you. That's how I teach. I teach from a place of sharing. I teach from a place of, hey, been there, done that, and this is what not to do, and this is what you can do. Plus, I do a lot of research. I do a lot of studying. I've been through therapy and counseling since my mom died when I was 12. So almost 30 years? Yikes. And so boundaries is something that I've been kind of enmeshing and ingraining and really integrating in my life for a very long time. And I didn't really feel like I really mastered boundaries until I went through Codependency Anonymous. And that gave me the permission to really speak my ultimate truth and my that uber sense of yes, this is what I like and this is what I don't like and this is what I'm not going to tolerate at all in any way, shape, or form. And I very much was a chameleon. I very much in my relationships see of just smile, everything's fine, don't ruffle feathers. And because of that, a lot of boundaries were crossed, and I didn't feel that I had the right to actually speak my truth because I was a woman, because I was the youngest daughter, because I was who I was. And that caused a ton of problems in my life. And when I finally realized my self-worth and finally realized I don't like a lot, then I was able to slowly but surely begin to voice my truth and begin to say, no, I don't like that. And I am a hugger, but there are some times when I don't want to hug people. I'm very sensitive to perfume. And there are some times when I'm out in public and they're like, oh my God, it's Flora. And people just like hug me. And then I'm like smeared with all their perfume. And then I get itchy and wheezy. And I'm like, oh. If I can smell a mile away, I don't want to hug them. I love people, but I can't hug you if you have perfume on, you know? And so that's a boundary that it's like, oh, hi. Yeah, I don't want to hug you because you have perfume. So I can only use essential oils. And even then I can't use all of them because I'm sensitive to some of those as well. So anyway, I digress. I'm kind of going random here. All right. I want to thank you all again so much for attending today's Lunch and Learn. Next week, Lunch and Learn about space clearing. Oh my goodness. So this is a 2-hour, actually a 2-part class. I think it's over 2 hours actually in the Institute. So if you don't want to wait until next week to check out and partake in the space clearing class, go ahead and click the offer on the screen, which is $1 15-day trial for the Institute. As you can check it out, take in the fabulous class. Enjoy. If not, then be sure to sign up, check in your inbox and on my Facebook page for Lunch and Learn class. And as always, if you have recommendations or suggestions for these Lunch and Learn classes, please send me an email, flora@florasage.com, and let me know, and I would be more than happy to add your class to the queue. Thank you very much, so much, and I hope to see you inside the inner circle. Mwah! Bye.